what is the point of the Jake Tapper apology tour that's not really about apologizing? It's really more of the, hey, we're so dumb we couldn't figure out in the DC press corps what everybody else knew, but somehow we went along with this nobody knew thing until the debate. What's going on here? Let's talk to our friend Ashley Brasfield. She is of the Daily Caller and Right Side Broadcasting Network, and she is somebody who is following this very closely. Ashley, welcome to the show, and tell me, what is the point here? Like from your perspective, they're now rolling out this campaign for a reason. It comes after the very interestingly timed cancer diagnosis revelation. What's the lib media doing?
Well, thank you for having me on. But yes, I mean, the Live Media, Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson are on a media tour right now. And of course, we saw last night with Megyn Kelly held Jake Tapper's feet to the fire with some of these, comments he's made in the past and defending the Biden family with this cover up. And it's been very interesting. We saw with another interview, and I can't imagine being Alex Thompson, especially with this book release going on right now. He presented this book to a publisher, and now Jake Tapper is taking over. But Jake Tapper in the past, of course, not covering any of this cover up as we've seen. And it's quite astonishing. And a lot of us at the Caller are, we just can't believe it.
I mean, I'm sure you could go back and just do story after story about Biden having what we would call politely senior moments, but basically the evidence. I don't even think we could say it's evidence of senility or dementia. I mean, it was just apparent, right? We used to talk about Weekend at Bernie's, which was before your time, but it's a very bad movie if you want to, go back and check. About they carry around a dead body and pretend the guy's alive. It's hard to even explain the premise because it's so stupid. But people got the reference to this because it all seems so obvious that Biden was a puppet president. But now we get to let's dive into the most recent thing, which is the cancer diagnosis. It turns out the Biden physician is like an old family friend, and New York Post asking some questions about this. What does your reporting indicate when you talk to the folks at the Caller about what you're seeing here? I'm seeing a lot of experts come out and suggest it's almost impossible that they didn't know about this particular type of cancer a long time ago.
Right. I mean, there's reports going all the way back to 2014 that they were not doing the blood test to, screen for this type of cancer, of course, with President Biden. And of course, it's horrible news that the president has been diagnosed with such an aggressive form.
We're all very anti-cancer and, thoughts and prayers for him to beat the cancer. But in terms of the diagnosis timing, I think is what we're kind of need to actually talk about.
Right. Well, I think as journalists, you are not doing your job if you're not looking into this. The timing is not making sense with the release, especially with this book with Jake Tapper going on. And, at the Caller, we've even talked to many doctors and reported on this, and all of which, even across most of the media networks that I've been keeping an eye on, has said this exact same thing, that this has been possibly going on 6 years that President Biden could have had this. And, people covering up in the administration over these past 4 years that he was president. And, the question being like, who was running the show? And of course, Lindy Lee, one of the DNC finance chairs, has come out as a whistleblower even before the Jake Tapper book, talking about this and, kind of sounding the alarm in whistleblower pieces back, I think, going to 2022. And, going on Sean Ryan podcast talking about this, and has been pretty public about the fact that even, Jill Biden, the Harrises, all the cabinet members and aides took part in this in some way.
Are any of your Daily Caller colleagues planning to, or do they have it scheduled that interview with Tapper on this one? Because he should, if he's going to say that right-wing media, which I am a part of, I think the Caller's a part of, we can wear that right-wing badge with pride, as I think we do. If we're going to be told, or rather we're going to hear that we were right, meaning correct, shouldn't he be willing to talk to the people who were correct about this issue? Or is he only going to go, for the most part, I know he went on Megyn's show, talked about that on radio, and Megyn held his feet to the fire over this, but I feel like he should be willing to go on any conservative network and explain himself, because he was definitely at the center of this.
I completely agree, but I also think there's a factor of this, that this is possibly a ploy by CNN to basically further get more credibility from their network that they've lost ever since the election in 2024 and beyond with COVID-19, stemming back all the way really with Donald Trump, because they have the knee-jerk reaction to do the exact opposite as what the president says or does. So I think this is honestly, a bigger picture media tactic by CNN, by Jake Tapper. And, I think you're exactly right. He needs to be doing a media tour, equally across the board, right wing, left wing, and center media, talking about this. I think that's only fair.
Yeah, I would think that he should be willing to. Did you see some of the Megan Tapper exchange? Did you watch some of it? They're friends, but I mean I know Megan very well. Megan was super helpful to me early in my career, and used to have me on her show when she had a huge Fox show all the time. So I know Megan pretty well, and she and Jake are friends, like social
Yes.
friends. She did that interview like real deal. I was not. I could have no quibble with it. I thought, and I feel like Jake was actually a little surprised at the fact that she was willing to do the interview the way she did, and I don't think he's a good enough actor to pull off faking that surprise.
Yeah, and it's hard to believe that you're surprised going on Megyn Kelly as though she's not going to ask the real questions. She's been known for that for many years. But even he goes back, I think the interview with Katie Couric, if that's correct, yesterday as well, talking about, his relationship with Hunter Biden even. And I think that's one of the segments that Megan kind of missed. And they apparently have gotten into it in the past. I think there was an exchange at a Super Bowl. And even, Tapper talked about, just Hunter's relationship with Haley Biden, Bo's former wife, and talking about just, how disappointed and how honestly I think he thinks that Hunter Biden is gross in a lot of ways.
Oh, well, I mean that was another of the like so-called revelations. I remember on my radio show with Clay, and even before that when I was doing radio solo in the evenings, just talking about the Hunter Biden laptop stuff and the prostitutes, the drugs, the crack, the baby with the stripper that he denied, that then his dad, the president, denied, even though he's the grandfather to this child, the payoffs, the barisma. I mean, you could sit here. I mean, people have written whole books. Miranda Devine's a friend. She wrote a whole book on this. I put out a poll question today: who's scummier, the Clintons or the Bidens? And we got a solid majority of people in this non-scientific poll who think the Bidens are scummier as a family than the Clintons, which I didn't even know that was possible.
Yeah, it's really incredible, and you got to give credit where credit's due with the Trump family. You never see this with them at all. They've come out pretty clean, but yeah, it's kind of frightening to see. With after Bo's death, Hunter Biden comes in and starts running the show, and even Lindsay Lee was talking about that she even witnessed Hunter Biden coming in on meetings without a security clearance. So it's very apparent, and from firsthand experience, it sounds like from cabinet members and people in the administration that he was very much involved. We saw with Trump pardoned Devin Archer, the business partner from the Burisma deal in Ukraine. And so, I mean, the list goes on and on. As we know, it's been happening for years, even that when President Biden was vice president with Barack Obama. The list goes on and on.
Our sponsor is Birch Gold. Look, I understand that there's a lot of good things going on right now in the economy. Thank you, Trump and the Republicans working with him. That's great. We got $37 trillion in debt. And we are going to have more fiscal challenges and crises ahead. Trump's not going to be president forever. Democrats can mess things up in the blink of an eye, and our debt is a huge problem. Your savings are being chipped away at by inflation. That is a reality. And if you take the long view, I've been an investor in gold for over a decade. Gold makes sense. Makes sense for you to hedge against inflation and economic stability by having a portion of your savings in gold. And this is the long-term play. And you don't have to just take my word for it. Yeah, I've been a long-time gold investor. Go back 30 years and see if you had bought an ounce of gold, what would it be worth today? And remember, you're not having to do anything. Once you buy it, you have it. You just get to wait and see what the value of gold becomes over time. And historically, there has been no more clear and universal store of value in the history of humanity than gold. Birch Gold Group can get you set up, and they can also transfer a 401k or an IRA into a gold 401k or IRA. Especially if you got an old 401k from a job you don't do anymore, it's just sitting there. A great thing to do is call Birch Gold Group. Text Buck to 989898. All you have to do is text from your phone Buck to 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free no obligation info kit. A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau. Birch Gold. Get some gold. Check it out today. They'll send you info. They're great people to work with. Text them by texting my name, Buck, to 989898 today. I want to ask actually about a piece up on the Caller. This is one of your pieces that I saw. Democratic Pennsylvania state rep flatly tells teen girls he will block bill protecting women's sports. After the, I want to get into the specifics of this bill, but just to preface this for a second, Ashley, after the 2024 election, I think a lot of us who voted for Trump and who were supportive of the agenda, conservatives or the right, broadly speaking, we thought, okay, they're going to have to step back, meaning the Democrats. I don't mean like crazy left-wing online pundits or something. They're like, I'm a communist, like, donate to my, GoFundMe or whatever. I mean, these people are insane. But I thought they'd have to back off of the transgender argument a little bit because it clearly is a political loser for them, but they actually haven't. I'm a little surprised. I didn't think that they would completely repudiate it, but I thought they would. No, they're still very much in on this. Tell us about this situation in Pennsylvania, which, again, feels like this has got to be a political loser for them.
Yeah, I think the exact same. I'm a former Division I athlete myself, so I can relate on this issue a lot. It's one of the things I'm passionate about covering, actually. But yeah, it's I've come between two things. It's like I said, the knee jerk reaction to do exactly the opposite of what Trump's saying, or follow the money in a lot of ways. Like, why is this continuing? And Trump calls it himself an 80-20 issue, and I think a lot of Americans agree with that. When I was on the campaign trail, I was able to talk to a lot of Americans in different areas and at rallies for President Trump, and that was one of their main concerns going into the presidential election. And to see it continue now from Democrats as not a winning issue, but they still back it. I talked to, for that article, Senator Judy Ward in Pennsylvania. She's a state senator, and she was the one that actually confronted the senator in Pennsylvania that went up to the teen girls and said those remarks. And, the way she talked about it, it was just a news conference and it was a group of teenage girls that were just sitting there listening. And it's kind of unbelievable that this grown man that has a daughter goes up to these girls and, confronts them about this. But it's one of the just many stories. I mean, even this past weekend, I did another story covering Rachel Levine was speaking at Smith College up in Massachusetts.
Oh, I went to Amherst. I know a lot about Smith.
Yes.
It's a funky place. Have you ever been there? It is wow.
Yes, but I mean,
a lot of women who present as men is what more than you'll find on any other college campus, I think, in all of America. Smith is like the place for that.
Well, what's so interesting about that story is a lot of these women groups were actually feminist groups that I would call the left-leaning groups that I was able to speak to that showed up to protest this. So this is not just the right that's complaining on this issue. People have common sense and are showing up from even on the left to complain about these things. And, as you know, Smith's an all-women's college, and you have a transgender HHS secretary.
Do you know that Smith College many, many years ago, again, I know too much about this because of the Amherst and Smith, you can take classes at either school you can just, like, as an Amherst student, you can register for any classes you want at Smith and vice versa. There's actually a bunch of colleges. They call it the 5-college consortium. Anyway, too much detail. Point being, there's a lot of crossover, and like some classes you can only take at Smith for your major, right? So I'd have to go over there. And they got rid of gender in the student constitution. So it's an all-women's college that explicitly, and it's a student constitution. I'm not even sure what the bylaws of the college are now, but they got rid of any gendered language. So it's only for women, but they cannot reference gender. Think about that.
It's incredible. I mean, I played beach volleyball at the University of South Carolina, and there's like height requirements when it comes to beach volleyball, but this just doesn't transition from just sports. Many people are speaking out about this. This is just demeaning to women overall, in my opinion. And, those are some of the topics I'm very passionate about covering at the Caller. The issue.
Can you tell everybody? Because I'm sure they're going to be seeing you. And have you done Fox yet, by the way? Have you been on Fox already? Have you already made your debut?
No, and this is my podcast debut. So this is a big one.
Really?
It is,
wow.
Yes.
Well, congratulations. You got a lot of people listening, so that's kind of cool. You have a lot more. It's more audio than video because, radio show and podcast. So, but we do some people will see you there. So, yeah, we've got to get you in the mix. I'm sure we'll see you on Fox or Newsmax or all of the above. But you're going to be in D.C. for the Caller, which always has sort of a a place in my heart. I remember when Tucker was running that outfit. I remember the early days when I was working at the Blaze, which was Glenn's site, when they founded when Tucker founded the Caller. So it was kind of those two sites side by side, and we always had a pretty warm relationship between the two newsrooms. What are you going to be doing when you get up to DC? Like, what's going to be your beat?
Yeah, so Capitol Hill is the plan right now. Just reporting on a lot of different stuff. I'm very curious. Love talking about a lot of topics, but I think Capitol Hill will be the focus. But yeah, in the past, covered with Right Side Broadcasting Network at many of the Trump rallies, and very happy that the Caller took me on. I think we're a very scrappy team. It's a great place to be.
No, it's a great place to start your career. So
Yes.
tell anybody over there. I'm so old now. I don't know if any of them will remember me, but tell anybody over at the Caller that would that I send regards. And to Ashley Brasfield, great to have you on. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
I've said it before, and it warrants saying again. Preborn accomplishes in a year what so many other organizations would hope to accomplish in a lifetime. Last year alone, Preborn made it possible for tens of thousands of babies to be brought into this world. And they start this whole process by welcoming pregnant mothers who are considering abortion and presenting them with a better idea, giving life to the tiny baby in their womb. Over the past 2 decades, 350,000 babies have been saved in this way by Preborn's efforts. And it all starts with that ultrasound process when Preborn brings that mother to be in, introduces her to the tiny life growing inside of her womb, and then says there'll be support, love, and all kinds of help if the mom chooses life for that baby. They accomplish this with a very straightforward proposition. It's a $28 expense per ultrasound. $28 expense per ultrasound is all that we're talking about for each one of these possibly life-saving interventions with a pregnant woman. Preborn operates in communities across our nation where abortion rates are the highest. The resources and services they offer, including that ultrasound to meet the unborn baby, really give that mom another option, a better one of life. To donate securely, dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, say baby, or visit preborn.com/buck. That's preborn.com/BUCK. Sponsored by Preborn.